Howdy guys, and welcome back to some more Dark Souls 2 action here at VGU Gaming. It's Dom the Expert Calls from VideoGamesUncovered.com, and we're back with Jeff, everyone's favourite Dark Souls mage, currently cosplaying as some random husk guy. You would understand it more if you watched one of the previous episodes, but of course, we're back and we're ready for some more action. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be using one of my few human effigies to restore my humanity, because the fight we are coming up to next may require a little bit of assistance from some random people also playing Dark Souls 2. But if I don't bump into anyone, then it's not the biggest concern of the world, since this boss is kind of optional to take on at this point. And this is the thing I really start to dig about Dark Souls 2. From Majula, you could take two different routes to two different areas, leading you to two different outcomes of bosses. So you can go this way towards the Forest of Giants, or you can go the other way towards Hyde's Tower of Flame. We'll be going to the Tower of Flame properly in a little bit, but before we head in that direction fully, we're gonna obviously complete this area as much as we can first. So obviously using the shortcut here, I'm just going to zap these guys from afar using my mage's staff and some soul arrows. Very, very handy thing. And this is how you trigger this boss fight. Now this boss fight can be taken on now, or it can be taken a little bit later on in the game after you've defeated the first boss in this area. So this boss is known as the Pursuer. And, as you would guess, if you face him here, he has technically pursued you, which kind of adds into his whole character, which is pretty awesome, I have to say. Now, the trick with the Pursuer is that he's not the hardest boss in the world. He's actually very judgeable, and if you constantly move forward and to the right whenever he's attacking, you can normally dodge all of his attacks without even having to dodge roll. I just like to dodge roll just in case I do get hit, and plus I am a bit of a wuss when it comes to this boss fight and many boss fights in the future, as you may see. So here comes the Pursuer, being dragged down by a raven, quote the raven, nevermore. And thus the fight begins. No big elongated intro, no big health bar at the bottom of the screen, because this is an unofficial confrontation with this boss. So here's the trick. You see here all the boss's different moves. And that move right there is the one you should definitely look out for. When he strikes forward with that sword and it turns blue, that's his Cursed Blade move. If you get hit by that move, then it's an unblockable attack, and if you're hit by it, you're going to get cursed, which is going to take out a lot of your HP. So be very careful of that. Now the trick to here is using your most powerful weapon, which is of course patience. Use your patience to good use here. Wait for the perfect time to use Estus Flasks or use Life Gems. Wait for the perfect opportunity to go in for an attack, whether it be with magic or whether it be with a physical attack. Keep note that he does take more damage from magic attacks. So if you do have magical attacks, I would prefer to use those over melee attacks. At least at this stage, if you're fighting with Pursuer here. One thing to note about the Pursuer fight as well is that if you beat him this early on, then obviously you've completely denied a boss fight for later on, which is great. But you don't get any real big benefits apart from that. Like there's no different items that are dropped, you don't get a big reward in comparison to the other reward you would get for fighting him normally. You just simply get the chance to kill him off early, get his items early that he drops. One of them is a ring, by the way, which is possibly one of the best rings you would ever want if you're running a melee build, which is the Ring of Blades that increases the damage of bladed weapons, which is incredibly handy. But yeah, as I said, you don't get any massive benefits from killing him this early on, apart from the benefit of course, not having to face him later. So I'm going to leave you with the rest of the boss fight, and I'm going to come in. Well, you'll see. And the Estus Flask kills him! Yeah, bad timing on the Estus Flask there, and I got killed. I was doing pretty good, and even if you only have 30 soul hours at this point, you should be okay. The fact that I've gone in with this boss fight with 60 soul hours instead of 30, just to make sure that I had enough ammunition in case I missed at all throughout the fight. But there you go, the Pursuer. We'll be seeing him properly later on, because he can be a bit of a twat, not gonna lie, this stage in the game, because you're kind of underleveled for it, you haven't gone against the first boss in this area, so of course he should be more powerful than you. And plus, he's really agile for what he's capable of doing. So we failed against the Pursuer! Hooray for the failures! But no need to worry. What we're going to be doing here, we're going to be rinsing and repeating how we started it off. So just easily getting rid of these guys. Just be careful about these shielded blokes, because these can, when they block, it will actually block your magical attacks as well. And it will block a considerable amount of damage, so try not to waste your soul arrows on them whilst they have their shields up. But those guys are really easy to take down. I'm not going to bother anymore taking out those guys and the rest of the barricade, because there's really no point. And you may be thinking, surely you could take on the Pursuer again up there. No, the Pursuer doesn't come back anymore. That's your only chance to take on the Pursuer this early on. And if you don't beat him first time, then you have to beat him later. Simple as that. So this introduces one of my favourite enemies in the game. I like to call him Imitation Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, because he kind of is. He kind of looks like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, just with a giant mace. Now the trick with this guy is that when he does that downward thrust attack and smashes the ground, it will shake the ground in such a way that it will actually stop you from having your maximum move speed for a little while. So the trick is to roll away from it, hit him, roll back, hit him, just like that. As you can see, I got stuck in a little bit of an awkward spot there, so I got absolutely annihilated. But don't worry, I'll get my revenge. Bow down to the awesome wrath of Jeff. Oh yeah, that's how you get your revenge, Jeff style. So before we actually see who that NPC is over in the distance there, we are going to actually take this route just to get some more handy dandy items. Now what I'm going to do here is, I know this guy is a little bit of a cheeky chap, so I'm going to wait for him to get up. And we're going to take this guy on. Simple as. He's got a shield again, so be careful if you are using any attacks on him. If he's blocking, it will block a majority of the damage. Wow, I'm still shocked by how much damage that blocks. Because I thought to myself for the longest time, that shield must be amazing! It's not the most amazing shield in the game, but if you are definitely a melee character or someone that is going to run with shields, it's pretty good for early on if you do get one of those. Okay, before we go up the ladder here, we're going to see something pretty sad. This is actually one of the giants. Because in the law actually dictates that when a giant dies, the giant turns into a tree. Which, if you think about it, this is a forest of the lost giants. And if every single tree is a giant, just think the war that must have raged between everyone that was in this, especially the giants. Actually made me really upset, because there were a couple of those around here. And apparently from what I've heard, this has been unconfirmed from what I've seen so far. But if you're nearby one of those when you're invaded or when you're invading an enemy, there is a chance that those trees will actually drop the seeds of a fallen giant. which is actually one of the gift items you can get early on in character creation. You can get one of those, and as I said in one of the earlier episodes, it actually helps out blocking people from invading you. So you can still have a chance to grab them in the game, but as I said, it was unconfirmed. I'd only heard rumours about it. I've not actually seen or heard of anyone actually obtaining one through that way, but there you go. And as we can see over here, by going this far, we get the Mail Breaker and a brand new helm. And this is when I think to myself, okay, I need to weigh up how good my helms are. I'm just going to put this one on for now, because this one's actually much better. And yay, the Mail Breaker. Not so good in physical attacks, brilliant in counter attacks. Very nice thrusting weapon as well, if you prefer a good thrust. It's not my kind of weapon, I prefer slashing weapons really, but if it tickles your fancy, go for it. Right guys, we are now going to meet up with an NPC I don't really like. Mild-mannered Pate.
Hello there.
And as we start talking to Pate, I'm actually going to leave us with a cliffhanger. What's Pate going to tell us? What are we going to find on the other side of this gate? And what boss lies ahead for us? Tune in next time to VGU Plays Dark Souls 2 to find out. Until then, I'll be seeing you on the other side.
Talk of unsavory bandits who